Hey everybody, how you doing? Well, that's good. You're listening to PHLY Flyers. That's right, PHLY. My name is Bill Matz. I'm your director of fun and games for the evening. With me, as always, the city's #1 hockey beat reporter and quickly climbing the power rankings when it comes to writing about baseball in this town as well, Charlie O'Connor.
Yeah, maybe like around like 20th, 19th. I'm at least getting on the list.
You're
maybe?
on the list, man. We're
on the list.
Charlie wrote an article yesterday, as he has been, about the Phillies, and I want to get into it in a little bit because it was really good. But I just want to. I need to start out the show. Huge game tonight. You know, there's a lot going on in Philly right now. You know, our baseball team clinches the playoffs, #1 wild card last night. Birds are 3-0. There's NBA moves being made. Seems like some shockwaves that could impact the 76ers.
In a bad way, but it could impact them.
Yeah, they're maybe trying to get Drew Holiday out of this.
Yeah, maybe
now,
they could get something out of this deal.
I mean, it's bad for them.
Yeah, it's bad when a really good team in their conference gets even better.
Gets a better player. But the biggest thing happening in Philadelphia sports today, preseason game 2. The Flyers had a horrible showing on Monday. So I have to ask.
It's a big 2 imaginary points, Bill.
Yeah, is this a must-win?
It might be. I mean, you just gotta secure those 2 points.
Atone,
put your head down. Gotta
atone for Monday's effort, man.
Get pucks deep.
A whole bunch of guys who didn't play Monday playing tonight, but they still have to make up for the effort of the team that showed up in, or really didn't show up in Newark.
Very, very true.
Just, man. My biggest takeaway, just watching that celebration last night
for the Phillies,
the Phils, the clinch the playoff berth, walk-off win, young kid, you know, freaking Rojas gets named one of the Paul Owens Organizational Player of the Year award before the game, wins the game for them to send them to the playoffs in the 9th. Just watching all that madness, all that joy unfold. Charlie, I want to feel this again with the hockey team, man. I realize you're a journalist now, but tell me there's not a little part of you last night when you see Alex Coffey rocking the poncho. You're not looking forward to the time you get to rock a poncho.
I mean, that'd be cool. My understanding, though, like I don't think that's more of a baseball thing in terms of making the playoffs or winning around.
Half the teams get in.
Yes, for
it's a
me,
little different in hockey.
For me to be part of that celebration and watch it up close, that would have to be a cup win because they do.
Do they do it for the conference?
So. It's a good question. I do not believe for the conference. I don't think they because I know the big thing with the cup
You're
is that
afraid to touch the freaking trophy to win the conference.
But I know the big thing with the cup is that they do let journalists go on the ice after the cup win, you know, to be part of it, to be able to report. Like I remember Jeremy Rutherford was telling me about that after the Blues won in 2019, and it was just so cool to just see that up close. And I'm sure there's a ton of champagne and everything being sprayed around the locker room. You could be part of that. You can watch that up close. But baseball's weird in that like you do it for clinching a playoff berth. That is not a hockey thing.
Well, it's 162 games. The hockey season never ends. And the baseball season is double.
Good point.
Like it is just literally like, oh my God, we have to do more of this.
Yep.
Okay. I always like. Were you a South Park kid?
I would say I got into South Park when I was in like late high school, early college.
There's this episode where like their little league team keeps winning.
Yes, and they're so
like
mad about it.
Trying to lose, and they're like, it's taking our whole summer. Like that's the baseball teams. You have to let us party. It has been 162 games, but it is like I always think even like the legend now of Gretzky and the Oilers when they lose in the final to the Islanders when they won their 4th straight.
Right. And
they're like a bunch of the kids on the Oilers allegedly walk by the Isles locker room and they expect like champagne spraying and it's just like a bunch of dudes covered in ice bags. Like, this is what it takes to win a cup.
That's so
always
hockey.
It's the most hockey thing ever. And it's funny now because no, man, when they win, they party. You don't have to hide it. Like, it's very clear. But I was just watching that and thinking, like, I cannot wait for that time. It's gonna, I want to say it's gonna happen, but honestly thought it would have happened by now, or at least we'd be in the, it's possible by now, and we're looking even further down the line. But this is what a rebuild is all about. The hope of one
Yes.
day having that.
Yes.
The idea that it's possible because of what we're doing now.
Exactly. And one thing that I am very annoyed about, I will always be annoyed about, not just because of how it ultimately played out, but also just because I do feel like we as a group covering the Flyers and also as a fan base got cheated out of how fun that 2020 playoff. Because like, here's the thing. Like, I've covered
The worst thing to happen in 2020 is what happened to the Flyers.
I've covered the Flyers, and I've covered them in the playoffs. I've covered a couple playoff runs, but those playoff runs, I'm thinking 2016, 2018, obviously, both those years, they lost the first round. But here's the thing. Like,
They were gonna.
Yes, they made the playoffs. But there wasn't that much excitement, like buzz in the city, just like how last year, like, yeah, people were excited last year when the Phillies made the playoffs, but it was more just like, well, thank God they finally did after the previous 4 years when they choked it away. Whereas this year, the fans are just jubilant because they fully bought
know what's
in.
coming
Everyone's on board with this team. Everyone's excited about the Phillies. And to me, 2019, 2020, that was the closest where had they clinched the playoff berth and gone into the playoffs with momentum, I think there may have been that same excitement because it was building. I mean, I was in those arenas in the months leading up to the pause.
It was good,
People
man.
were getting excited. People were getting on board with the team. You know, everyone was pumped about, you know, Kevin Hayes and his personality. Like, that year of Kevin Hayes, very reminiscent of just the goofballs on this Phillies team. Like, it was getting fun in the same way the Phillies were. Then obviously the pandemic hits, and like, yes, they eventually get to play in the playoffs. They win a series. They were good in the bubble, but it was different. It was the bubble. There were no fans. We weren't able to have tailgates and have the Wells Fargo Center rocking. It just didn't feel like the playoffs, even though it sort of was.
And we got subjected to 7 games of fucking Islanders
the Islanders,
hockey.
man.
Like, that's a punishment.
Yeah. So to me,
some of those games went to overtime.
Exactly. A lot of them did. But to me, like, if this rebuild works and they build slowly, they build, you know, they get a little bit better. Then Mitchkov comes over. Maybe they don't make it the first Mitchkov year, but like, you're feeling like they're building something. When they finally get there, I think the excitement will be on a different level than it was when I covered it in, say, 2016 and 2018, because I think those years there was a feeling, number one, like, there's no way they're winning the first round. Number two, there was a lot of doubt. There was a lot of doubt about that team, rightly or wrongly. It ultimately was proved right. But if, you know, you think back to like the first time the Leafs with Matthews got to the playoffs and Toronto fans had yet to, you know, turn on that team, get frustrated with that team. It was just exciting. And I feel like that's what the first time, assuming this rebuild is successful, that's what the first time this group, or whatever that group ultimately ends up becoming, makes the playoffs. That's what it could feel like, and that's what I'm looking forward to.
And it will be a long time coming then, because even those like mid-20-teen teams, no, they didn't go every year the way they did from, you know, basically from the time they got Lindros until, you know, 13 or whatever it was when they finally missed the playoffs.
Right.
Like,
well, they missed it in
they
what?
missed it one time.
The 1 year when they were the worst team in the league.
Yeah, when they went 22-60 and somehow didn't get the first pick. Whatever. And then that guy scored a Stanley Cup winning goal. Anyway, just the most dog shit luck ever. Yeah. I did want to just point out about Charlie. Now, I refer to you as the #1 Flyers beat reporter, and you are by far my favorite hockey game analyst. But baseball, the day-to-day, it's the poetry of writing baseball is just different. There's something special about it. If you're not reading Charlie on allphly.com, just let me read you this little excerpt from his article about the team last night. And now I have to read out loud a 4th time in this show. I just love giving myself shit I'm bad at. The fans, once scornful and distrusting of their local baseball team, now couldn't be more on board. The Phillies may be legitimately good, but they're far from perfect, combining a never-say-die attitude with an infuriating penchant for inexplicable lapses. But somehow their erratic nature makes them just as endearing as if they were a true juggernaut. There's something especially gratifying about watching the sports team embodiment of the That sign can't stop me because I can't read. Internet meme prove that their model of sheer chaos can actually be a sustainable formula for success over a 162 game season and not merely a few glorious weeks. That's great shit.
It's there's a little like flexing of the muscles in terms of writing you can do when you're covering number one, baseball versus hockey, but number two, a team that everyone actually likes versus a hockey team that most people hate.
You can't be Dickie Dunn like sitting there. I think I captured the spirit of the thing when the team's losing on purpose. Like
exactly.
There's a little bit here, but just we're not going to talk all Phillies this whole. Don't worry, we have plenty of Flyers. It's a preseason game tonight. We're going to preview. Gonna get to it. Just a couple of things though, like relating this team because it is the biggest story today.
Yeah, to be sure.
And this is an all PHLY network. It's not just it's not like we're doing Broad Street hockey here and half of our audience is in Sweden and doesn't know what baseball is.
If you're in Sweden though, feel free to watch.
Yeah, be a Phils fan, man. Yeah, but Garrett Stubbs, if he were to run for mayor as backup catcher on the Philadelphia Phillies. I think he could get 95% of the vote. Like, I really, truly believe
right now,
that.
possibly.
It's like after last night, he's getting most of the city's vote. It's hard to have a comparison because the first name in my mind is Travis Konecny, but he's like, if he's going to be here, a major contributor.
He's too big of a deal.
Stubbs plays on days like today where everyone's too hungover to play, basically. Do the Flyers have like a Garrett Stubbs kind of... Hockey players are so guarded with their real personalities, but you've been in the locker room a while. Is there like an absolute goof that we don't know about?
Yes, I would say
yes,
in terms of a like depth guy, and granted, who knows if he's going to be a depth guy when they get better. To me, the guy with the highest Garrett Stubbs potential on this Flyers team, 100% Wade Allison. He is a nut.
The highest Stubbs per 60.
Highest Stubbs per. Wade Allison is one of those just like goofballs, and like if the Flyers got good, he would be like one of those folk hero fourth liner bottom sixer types who everyone loves because he just plays with reckless abandon and is also just. I mean, I've never hung out with the guy, but I just get the sense that he's like the wild man at the bar.
When a guy like him goes back to college the way he did, they can say anything they want about, that team had a shot at the championship and everyone got hurt, so he wanted to go back to Western Michigan, maybe give it one more go. He wanted to give something one more go.
I'm sure he had a great time.
I bet he had a lot of fun. That's all. Just real quick before we get into the stuff for tonight, there was a little bit of news
last night.
Basically right after the show yesterday.
Yeah,
because
first round of roster cuts.
That is the Flyers' way. They released 5 guys. Well, didn't release. Cut 5 guys. Bonk and Barkey go back to OHL London. Carter Sutherland back to WHL Portland. And 2 camp invites. Anthony Fauci and Jonathan Fauchon. And Sedley. What's Sedley's first name? Sam Sedley.
He's got the alliterative.
I can't believe they didn't keep him with all the alliteration that they love.
You gotta love it.
They were released from their camp invites, so maybe they can go catch on somewhere else or see what else is going on.
For Sedley and Fauchon, honestly, I'm not going to pretend that I know exactly where they're at in terms of their careers. But obviously, Bonk, Barkey, and Sutherland, particularly Bonk and Barkey, are viewed as, maybe not core pieces of the future, but definitely pieces for the future. And I think it showed by the fact that both Bonk and Barkey got in that first preseason game. I don't think it was a guarantee going into rookie camp that either of them was going to get into an actual NHL preseason game, but they both impressed enough that the coaching staff and the organization decided, they deserve it. They worked hard. They deserve to get a taste of the NHL before we invariably send them back to juniors. They're not ready, but they're ready enough and they showed enough to want to give them that taste. So I guess
they got to wear the jersey.
They got to wear the jersey in a real game, a real-ish game. How high are you on both of those guys?
I mean, I like what I've seen out of Bonk so far.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like there is maybe not the highest ceiling, but we've said this, like he's got a high floor.
Yeah.
He is going to be an NHLer. And with a first round pick, you want the high upside. You want the guy who might win a Norris one day. They rarely get drafted at 20 or 21, 22, whatever it was.
Unless you're Claude Giroux.
Yeah, exactly. And he was he was unfairly, I think, treated because he wasn't a number 1 overall guy his entire career. But it looks a lot like Bonk is going to be part of this thing. Like we talk all the time is X going to be on the next great Flyers team? I'm willing to bet Oliver Bonk is.
I would agree with that.
We'll see how Barkey develops.
Yeah, I like Barkey a lot.
They seem to like him.
Yeah, I mean, Bonk is the steady second pair guy, I think. He's a right-handed shot. You always need those. Coaches want those guys.
Doesn't matter how good he is, he's going to play 10 years.
Exactly. Barkey, to me, is just he's more exciting in a way just because you don't know he slipped, so he's if he hits his man, we got that guy in the 3rd round, that was a steal, and he's just fun. Like Bonk is just steady and stable, and he's going to be a great partner for the exciting guy who flies around and does all the cool things, whereas Barkey, if he hits, could be the exciting guy who flies around and does all the cool things. He's super small. As we talked about on the show, he looks like he's like 13 years old, but he's just got this like tenacious, relentless motor. And if he hits, he could be a real fan favorite. So I'm excited about Barkey. I want to see how he develops these next couple of years.
I'll tell you what I'm excited about, Charlie. I am excited about watching the hungover Phillies tonight because I already bet the Pirates today. We all remember last year's hangover game where it was just non-competitive and they're like, we're done. And that's basically what today is going to be. There's only a few regulars out there. I bet the Pirates plus 110 underdogs. The Phils were even bigger favorites during and like immediately after the game. And then like once everyone realized like, oh, yep, same celebration as last year, it was very clear people were starting to bet the Pirates because all of a sudden the odds crashed. But they're still plus 110 underdogs, the Pirates. You can get them if you want to bet on the booze to win. You can bet the Pirates, and you should do it at DraftKings. Listen, everyone, football is back in full swing with another week of epic games. And who's got you covered on the action for every single one of them? It's DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. New customers can bet $5 on football and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. But nobody's missing out on the action this season. All DraftKings customers can take advantage of 2 new offers every game day this September. So get in on the NFL Week 4 action with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the app now and use code PHLY to sign up. New customers can bet just $5 and take home $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code PHLY. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 plus age varies by jurisdiction. Void in ONT. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/football terms for eligibility, terms, and responsible gaming resources. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply.
It's a solid one. It was solid. You messed up a little bit on the actual ad read, but the disclaimer was good. And
Charlie, I'm going to be tuning in and grading you tomorrow and Friday.
So I'm going to have to give our listeners the heads up.
I've been fired.
I'm going to have to do the ad reads for the next 2 days because our good friend William Matz is taking a much-earned vacation 3 weeks into his new job. Good job, Bill. Setting the standard here.
I don't know if I've worked every day of the week consecutively for 3 weeks since I was like 26. So I really need this. Granted, we started on a Tuesday and today is a Wednesday, so it hasn't actually been 3 weeks.
That's fair. I didn't think of that. Good point. But yeah, so Bill will be on vacation. He will not be on the show the next 2 days. I, however, will be, and we have some interesting content for you. So tomorrow we will be recording at 6:30. Thursday, generally speaking, we're going to try to make that the day where Kelly and Steph come in. Kelly was obviously in last Thursday. This week, Kelly and Steph. Steph will be here in studio for the first sort of BSH reunion without Bill. So not a full-fledged reunion, but it'll be me, Kelly, and Steph tomorrow at 6:30. And then on Friday at 3:45, the great Jim Jackson will be joining us in studio to discuss camp so far, his view of the Flyers as they stand right now, And I'm really looking forward to it. It's nice to have the voice of the Flyers come into the PHLY studios to talk Flyers.
JJ's a great interview. I talked to him leading up to Drew's 1000th game. I got to interview him, and he was more than accommodating. He's great interview, great dude. Everyone loves JJ.
Definitely. So Bill might not be here, but still tune in. Tune in, please.
Like you, has dabbled in some baseball.
He has. Well, more than dabbled.
Oh, no. He was
that was his job.
One of the radio voices of the Phillies for a while. So, yeah, it's JJ will be coming in on Friday. In true BSH radio fashion, it will be at least the third attempt to get the whole group together where we are actually able to have all four of us. And just
fingers crossed.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if it works out. But now it is time. Everyone is eagerly anticipating, the preview for this huge game,
mammoth game
up
here
on the
such
island,
an important matchup
up on the island of Long tonight. The Islanders and Flyers, and it's not a great lineup.
It's not the best.
It's not much different, just in terms of overall, I don't even want to call it star power, but name recognition that was in the first game. But these are clearly the early ones, especially on the road. They're getting dudes in. Even
for the Flyers, and, we have to kind of get ourselves in the habit when we look at the rosters in preseason and say, man, that roster doesn't look that good. We have to remember that, like, the NHL roster for game one isn't going to look that good either, great. At least in terms of, like, super high-end talent. Yeah. So it's,
almost like they need to rebuild or something.
Almost like that's why they're doing what they're doing. But even for the Flyers, there's no Travis Konecny, there's no Owen Tippett, there's obviously no Sean Couturier, there's no Travis Sanheim, there's no Cam Atkinson. There's a lot of the guys there's no Joel Farabee. The guys who are supposed to be at the top of the Flyers lineup when game one begins, most of them are not playing. We do have Noah Cates is making his preseason debut, Scott Lawton making his preseason debut, and then we do have what is looking like it's probably going to be the opening night fourth line in Nick Delorier, Ryan Poehling, and Garnet Hathaway. Functionally, I think they'll probably be line two in this one, but we're going to get a look at that fourth line as a top six line in this game, which should show you kind of the lineup that you can expect tonight.
A borderline fourth line in the NHL.
I don't know if I would say borderline. I mean, Poehling was a useful fourth liner last year. Garnet Hathaway is a legitimately good fourth liner, and Delorier is one of the best fighters in the league. So,
and I was talking to our guy Vince before the show, and he has Delorier in a very deep fantasy league.
Oh, I hope it has penalty minutes.
He says he is a stat sheet filler because of hits and penalty minutes.
Yeah,
he's actually very valuable.
Fair.
So listen, I love Delorier. Listen, we talked all sorts of we were critical of the move to sign Delorier just because.
I still am, but if they're going to be bad, we might as well have some fun.
No, listen, last year they were trying to tell us that they planned on competing.
Exactly.
And it's like, well, you just gave a fighter 4 years, so I don't know if you're trying to compete, you're real bad at it.
Yeah.
But I got no problem with Delorier. And honestly, when there's a bunch of kids in the lineup, I like them out there even more.
Yeah, that's totally fair. So not the best lineup in the world, but there are a fair amount of players tonight, and I don't know if this was reported. I do believe there is going to be another stream, so if you want to watch this game, at least this time there isn't an Eagles game going on at the same time, you will be able to. I'm not going to guarantee you that the stream will be great. I will be watching the stream, so if it's bad, I might not write an article on the game because I might not be able to tell who is who, but I'm obviously not going up to the island. If I was, I wouldn't be doing this at 4 p.m. I don't have a teleporter.
Helicopter?
Yeah, like a Star Trek style, whatever the heck you call that thing. So I will not be there, but I'll be watching. That said, there are going to be some players in the lineup who aren't just using this game as let me get tuned up for the regular season, that are actually trying to make an impression. And I would say that there are 6 that jump out at me as guys who have something to prove, who have to do something in this game to gain the recognition, gain the attention of the coaches and the brass that will be up there to try to make this team.
The first one, and I just want to ask this real quick about before we get to your 6, because you don't have Tuamala listed as one of these 6, and he's up on the line with Lawton and Cates.
You're not wrong.
2 surefire NHLers. They're on the team.
Yeah,
probably in the top 6.
Yeah.
So is this kind of okay? Let's just see how he does with some experienced guys. Is it? let's give him a reward because he's looked good in practice so far. So let's give him the opportunity to stand out because he's going to be with guys who are hopefully like in the offensive zone some. Like, how do you like... Or is it just we need him to play somewhere?
It's a good question. I do think, number one, I don't think this is hinting that he has a shot at earning a roster spot. I think they know he needs time in the AHL. I do think, though, it is something of a reward for what's been a pretty solid camp for Tuamala. And, Tuamala is a guy where, since he's been drafted, he has taken the trajectory of what you would think would be a bust. Like, he does not have the numbers. He's bounced around. He hasn't stuck with certain teams. Like, you look at him and his statistical profile and you say, ooh, it looks like they swung and missed on him. And it's been good to see him at this camp at least impress enough that they want to give him opportunities like this, where they want to have him in both of the first 2 preseason games. They're putting him with Noah Cates and Scott Lawton. They've liked what they've seen, and honestly, I've liked what I've seen too. I think that while I'm not sold on him completely, I am seeing more and more a guy who, while I don't think is ever going to have the high-end offensive ability that maybe they hoped he had when they took him with that second-round pick, that maybe he could be, a good, speedy third liner who can chip in, bring energy, score some points. He's not going to be a black hole of offense, but not a guy who you're counting on to be on your first power play and score 60 points.
Like the... I want to compare it to Kasperi Kapanen.
Yeah, I could see that. That's a best case scenario,
when he first
maybe.
broke out, it was like, yes, and that is like, the dude's a really good NHL.
Well, he's okay. He's okay.
He's a useful piece on a good team.
Yeah, he's useful.
Around.
He's useful.
He's a useful piece even on a good team. But it was, when he first broke out, was, oh man, what can this guy be?
Fair.
And it was,
fair.
No, he is what he is, which is
yeah, he's a useful middle six or third line type.
The first guy of your 6 to watch, Emil Andre, getting a second game. We saw those highs and lows. As the coach said, he makes mistakes and he's not afraid to make them, but he also shows you some impressive stuff. To me, I look at him in his second straight. One, he's just a dude battling for wherever he's going to be. So yeah, let's give him all the opportunity in the world, but also, okay, we pointed out your mistakes. We also showed you what we liked about your game. Show us some improvement. Show us a modicum of improvement. I feel like that's the opportunity I think they're giving him right here.
I would agree. And I think a big thing for this, because we talked to Ian LaPerriere this morning, or I guess early afternoon maybe is when we finally talked to him, but same difference.
Yeah.
When we asked him about Andre, about his play in the first game, Lappy was pretty adamant that he felt like most of Andre's mistakes on Monday were driven by the fact that the kid was gassed, that he was just tired. And a lot of those mistakes were driven by the fact that he just didn't have the energy to make the kind of plays he's capable of. And LaPerriere essentially said, look, he had a day off yesterday. Maybe we'll see a more energized, a more fresh Emil Andre. And if that's the case, we'll see how exciting that is to see him, more at full strength after the full day off. Yeah, a full day off isn't a week off, but he's young. He's got energy. He's got more energy than me and you. So hopefully we'll see a better Emil Andre, because it's not like Monday wasn't without flashes of brilliance.
Yeah.
It just also included some glaring defensive mistakes, some bad turnovers. So if he can repeat those flashes of brilliance and take away from the big mistakes, suddenly he might make a real impression tonight.
The next dude on your list, Wade Allison, who to me, maybe the one hurt most by, if everyone's gassed, because he is, if nothing else, a noticeable player.
Oh, to be sure.
He's a cannonball out there.
Yeah.
It's why he's hurt all the time, because he just runs around insane. And he just wasn't noticeable. And you would think in a preseason game, listen, yeah, there's some NHLers out there, and we ran through the thing yesterday, there's some, the Devils had some good players out there, but you would assume a dude with the NHL experience Wade Allison has would be someone who stands out. He didn't at all. This is an opportunity maybe for him to be like, no, it was really just because I was tired.
I would agree with that. That's a really good point. And I was disappointed in what I saw from Allison on Monday, but primarily because I saw it as such an opportunity, because he wasn't originally supposed to be in that lineup. He was a last-minute addition because it turned out that Cam Atkinson could not play. And I thought to myself, this is a guy who right now looks ticketed to be the 13th forward. He gets an opportunity he wasn't originally going to get. I want to see him kind of take this and run with it. And he either didn't or he couldn't physically. Now, this is kind of a mulligan. This was probably the original plan, was to get him and Lazinski in for the second game. That's why neither of them were in the first game. He really needs to take this opportunity and run with it, because if he starts with 2 underwhelming games, that just feeds into the narrative from the people making decisions that he doesn't deserve to be in the opening night lineup.
And that's okay. It's not. He's just inconsistent. Like, it's not. Yeah. He's hurt all the time, so he hasn't been able to show you what he's capable of, or maybe he fell into the doghouse with the coach, or game 1 he was gassed. Now it's just he's just inconsistent. And what do coaches hate more than anything? You can be consistently bad as long as you
amazingly enough,
if you make the same mistakes every night, they're like, all right, well, we know what to expect. Like, you could be.
This is the Andrew McDonald effect.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. We know exactly what to expect.
Brandon Manning, like any number of Chris Vandevelde, any number of those guys.
Yeah.
You could be consistently
Vandevelde's
bad.
a good one.
But if you're inconsistent, we don't know what to expect. We can't play you then.
Yeah, it's like we know exactly where Chris Vandevelde is going to be. 4 steps behind the play.
Like, what if ceiling though is 2 goals? Yeah. Too bad. We'd rather you be -2 every single night. So next, Wade Allison's running mate, and they're actually not on a line together, at least to start, according to tonight's lineup. Tanner Lazinski, who...
Yeah.
Okay.
If we talk about how Allison has
is a borderline guy,
has a hill to climb, like Lazinski has a mountain, because I just do not get the sense that John Tortorella is high on him at all, even a little bit. Like, he really needs to change perception. So huge game for him too. It's just that, like, I don't think they would send Wade Allison down to the minors to start the year. I think they very well would send Tanner Lazinski down to the minors unless he really changes the perception of him as a player in the organization right now.
We've talked, like, for if we're just gonna, what we guess the lineup is gonna be opening night. Wade Allison is the 13th forward. He makes the team, but
that's
he's
my
not
guess.
suited up.
That's my guess, is that he's an
Tanner
extra to begin the year. Yeah, like they'll send him through waivers, and I would be shocked if anybody picked him up.
It would be surprising, like, considering the number of guys who are being put through waivers. Who's like, we need to, even if we lose one of our guys, we have to get Tanner Lazinski. Like, that would be surprising.
It would. Definitely.
I would like to see him turn it around, because he's shown flashes of being a potential decent bottom of the lineup guy, but he has not impressed the coach to this point.
You got to show something. And I've long been a Tanner Lazinski fan. I thought he was really good down in the minors, particularly in that first year. Showed some real skill. I've always liked his skill set, but last year, he was hurt. But even when he played, he just was pretty underwhelming, and he just didn't have, like, Allison, as you said, he's noticeable, he's memorable, he does things. Tanner Lazinski has the ability to do things, but he didn't do much of them last year. And I think that's probably what really sticks in Tortorella's mind, or you could say it doesn't stick in his mind. It's just that there's nothing to make me remember you. You got to do something to stand out, and he really didn't. And this is a big opportunity for him. If he pops in 2 goals tonight, suddenly maybe he's back on the radar. But if he just, skates around on the 4th line, puts in a decent 10 minutes, that's not doing anything for him.
No. We're joining Andre on the blue line. Ronnie Haddard gets his first action.
I'm excited about Ronnie.
Outside chance to make the team. A guy who got a little taste of the NHL last year. Could very well be a call-up, something along the way. We expect him in the NHL maybe sooner than later. And this is his first action tonight.
Yeah, to me, unless he really bangs the door down in camp, he's more of like an injury call-up, or a guy who, if he has a real good first month, they find a spot for him. They sit Walker for 4 games and give him a go. But I just really like Ronnie Haddard. I really like his style of play. He's a fun player. He's
wild.
He's huge. He can skate pretty well. He has a booming shot. He attacks. He's very aggressive both with the puck and without it. Like, he's one of those guys where he just thinks he can get the puck at all times, and sometimes he gets burnt, but a lot of times he kills plays because he just goes after you. Like, there's that whole cliche in hockey about time and space. Ronnie Haddard's entire defensive mentality is, I'm going to take away time and space whenever I can and dare you to get the puck past me. And I'm partial to guys like that. I love watching that style of play. And I don't know if Addert's going to ultimately make it, but man, I hope he does because he'll be fun if he does.
Hockey is mostly about time and space. I always wondered, like, teams started to do it, and the Rangers were really good at it.
Vegas was really good at it those first couple years.
When Giroux was on the half wall on the power play, and teams would just leave him out there, like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
He's got the best vision in the league, and you're just giving him the time and space.
Yeah.
Like the Rangers in those 14 playoffs were the first team I ever saw get up on him, and they couldn't score. Big shock. Like, I really do. But Ronnie Attard is a ton of fun to watch. Just a little bit we've got to see out of him. He's different than Andre, but it seems as if he's not afraid to make a mistake.
Agreed.
He's like, yeah, you can burn me, but you're going to have to make a play to do.
Yeah.
Like, you are going to have to do something really nice. Okay, you did it. Congratulations,
Tip your cap.
you executed. Yeah. But most of the time, it's a hard play to make.
Yeah, and that's what happens when you're what, like 6'3", 230. Like Andre, the thing with Andre is that Andre has a similar mentality, but he's small.
Yeah.
It's a little bit easier to get the puck around him, whereas like Ronnie Addert's chasing you down, you're gonna be like, oh shit.
He's got that LeClaire ass. Like, good luck getting around him.
Yeah, right.
And also on the blue line, Adam Ginning getting his first taste of preseason hockey after the rookie
he was in the
games.
rookie games.
So he'll be out there tonight as well. For what we're lacking in terms of firepower on offense, 3 of the 6 defensemen who are suiting up tonight are dudes I'm very much looking forward to watching.
That's true. And I know that the organization, we've talked about it on the show, they're very high on Ginning. They really liked, honestly, and they didn't run D pairs at practice today. They kind of just cycled them around. I'd really like to see Ginning and Attard be paired together because they were apparently, and I didn't get a chance to watch as I was obviously covering the Flyers last year. Apparently in the second half, those two really clicked as a duo down in Lehigh. Or up in Lehigh, I guess up in Lehigh. It's north,
sure.
across.
Yeah.
Sure. Just trying to get the directions right here. But I'd like to see them together in this game. If they already have existing chemistry, let's see it. Let's see if that gives both of them the opportunity to put their best skates forward and really make a case that, we want to be here until the end of camp and we want to make this a tough decision for you guys.
Just one more defenseman not on your list, but I have to. I completely forgot they signed Victor Mete.
Yeah. They slipped that one in there.
I heard someone mention it the other day. It was like they're talking about somebody else.
No, it's that Montreal guy.
Yeah, and then I saw him on the list. I was like, oh, he is here. I completely blanked on that, so that's funny. But the final of your 6 important guys to watch tonight is Samuel Ersson, who's going to be getting 2 periods.
Urson.
I'm never going to get it. Because it was Ersson last year.
It really wasn't. I think you just, for the time he was
Why
a prospect,
would I make that
you
up?
Convinced yourself that that's what it was, and now you can't break the habit.
What do I get out of making that up, Charlie?
I don't know, Bill. That's a question you got to answer for yourself.
That's whenever I'm in an argument with Ava, that's my go-to. I'm like, what do I get out of making this up? She's like, because you're wrong. So you're just saying something.
Amazing.
Yeah, all right, you win.
It's like, all right, you got me there. You got me there.
You've bested me again, wife. So Samuel Ersson will be getting 2 periods tonight. Felix Sandstrom is backing him up. He played in the 3rd period against the Devils, so he'll get 1 period tonight, and looks like an open competition here.
It sure does. Just the fact that over the course of the first 2 preseason games, everybody's getting 2 periods, even if Sandstrom has to have those 2 periods stretched across 2 games, it sends a message that like, hey, we're going to be judging you guys on how you look in each of these, like each of your 2 period stints, and then we're going to go from there for the second half of camp. I would like to think, and I guess we'll see how Sandstrom does in his second of his 2 periods, but I'd like to think after that game 1 that Felix Sandstrom is ahead of Cal Peterson. And now today it's going to be whether Sam Ersson can put himself ahead of Felix Sandstrom, who is ahead of Cal Peterson.
I know we're behind here, but I just have to ask one more question. Sandstrom should be ahead of Cal Peterson. The coach seemed to be so down on Felix Sandstrom last year. Do you think it's a possibility he's still not?
It's possible, but I guess my thing is that with how underwhelming, I guess I'll say, and that's honestly being generous, how Cal Peterson looked in that Monday game, I don't know how Sandstrom couldn't be above him if you're not just saying, don't worry about it, it was a throwaway game because everybody was gassed. But like, Peterson did not look steady in any way, shape, or form.
Not a little bit.
It's not like Sandstrom was incredible, but he at least looked like an NHL caliber goalie, whereas Cal Peterson did not.
if you want to look like an NHL caliber fan,
Heyo.
you got to check out our friends at Foco because Foco has the absolute best officially licensed gear for all sports and fandoms. Listen, it's football and tailgating season. Red October is officially coming back. We can say it now. They've clinched. Going to be a party down in South Philly for the next month at least. I mean, there's going to be a ton going on down there.
I've heard rumors that we might be down there possibly one day next week. Some rumblings.
I've heard something about it. You might want to keep your ears open for maybe a tailgate of some kind.
Potentially.
If it happens, you're going to need some outdoor gear to get ready for the season, whether it's overalls, hoodies, hats, sunglasses, bags, or anything else you need for a game. You can get it at Foco, and goes beyond that. Whether you're looking for team of power or accessories, toys, collectibles, novelty items, everything you could ever want for building a podcast studio like this one, you can do it at Foco. And Foco always has our back for Philly sports, and they have yours too. Get the best gear around by using the link in the description of this show. And for all non-presale items, use the promo code PHLY. That's promo code PHLY for 10% off. You can't go wrong with Foco.
That was a better one.
It wasn't bad.
Yeah, it was solid.
It wasn't bad. We got to get to some things that are bad now. Not always.
Bad-ish.
Yeah, bad-ish. We got some injury updates today. The first one, Travis Konecny. He's back on the ice, not playing in tonight's game. Not a ton of need to play Travis Konecny.
No.
I'm sure he'll be in the lineup Saturday for the home open.
That would make sense.
The first home preseason game, but we're not going to see a ton of him, but he's back out on the ice.
It was reassuring to see him back out there.
It's a body injury. That's what they said.
Yeah. Well, so when we asked Torts,
it's not made up. It's not all in his head.
He's not wrong. No, when we asked Torts about TK back when he missed the practice he did, he was not willing to give anything. He said a body injury. So then when we asked TK, because Konecny did practice today, he was in the non-game group. We got access to the locker room for the first time. Went up to TK's stall, asked him, you willing to specify as to what the injury was, and he was just like, nope, it was a body injury.
A body
injury. So, but the good news is that he looked completely fine at practice. The Flyers had assured us it was not serious. Now that he's back out there, and Travis Konecny is also doing the assuring that it is not serious, makes it much easier to believe that that is indeed the case. Konecny basically told us, we asked him, he said that he is completely cleared, good to go for any of the preseason games this week if he's in the lineup. I think it makes sense that he would play on Saturday in front of the home crowd. That would be logical, but we'll see how it plays out.
Cam York showed up missing at today's practice.
He did.
It was just like, no Cam York out there, and nothing major, they're telling us.
The two Cams were both absent. Cam squared, Cam times 2. I don't know what would be the better way to put that. But Cam Atkinson, again, was not out there for practice. Cam York, also not out there for practice. The thing with Cam York, and Atkinson doesn't surprise me too much. They did say it wasn't anything major, but again, this is a guy coming off of neck surgery. This is a guy who missed all of last year. The idea of them being cautious with him, I get. Cam York, on the other hand, it raised my eyebrows a little bit because he played on Monday, but then they had a full off day on Tuesday. And usually if a guy misses practice after an off day, there might be something there. We did ask Ian LaPerriere after the practices today, after the morning skate. He basically said nothing major on Cam York. On Cam Atkinson, the quote was, well, he was in the gym today. That's the place I saw him. He walked fine, had a big smile on his face. That's all I can go on. Personally, I don't think it's anything major. So if you believe Ian LaPerriere, it shouldn't be that big of a deal. I poked around on some sources trying to get some information on these two guys. What I've heard is that the confirmation that I got was that it's nothing serious, mostly precautionary. Don't think either of them are going to play on Friday. I guess it's possible, so that would be in Boston, but they're not ruling out the possibility of one or both playing on Saturday. I think this matters more for Atkinson. Because York already got into the game. Atkinson, you really want him playing sooner rather than later, right?
We saw the rust of Sean Couturier in that first, and it's, knocked it off, initiated some contact. That was good for him. He felt happy about, okay, at least I know what it's going to take, and now I have to work to get that rust off now, the finer points of the game. Does Cam Atkinson even get that opportunity before the puck drops in the regular season?
Yeah, the longer this goes, the more you worry. Again, I've been told that it's nothing major. He could play on Saturday, but let's take that at face value. Let's
he was
say
going to play in the opener last year.
yeah, like let's say that yes, nothing major. Atkinson will be fine. They're just being precautionary. If he indeed misses Friday's game, he obviously is not playing tonight. He did not play on Monday. There's only 6 preseason games. Suddenly, the soonest he's getting in is the 4th game. You're maybe going to get him to 3, probably 2. He missed all of last year. I worry that that's not enough time for him to knock the rust off, and the entire first 2 weeks of the season are going to be spent with Cam Atkinson watching everybody whiz by because he's just not, he's in game shape, he's healthy, but he's not quite up to speed in terms of, making plays with the puck, in terms of being used to the pace of the game because he missed the full season. That's worrying me. Like, I want to see Couturier in many more games the rest of preseason. I also want to see Atkinson in a lot more games, and suddenly 3, I mean, we'll see on Friday, but it looks like the first 3 are going to pass by without Cam Atkinson being in a game. It's concerning.
We talked a little the other day about just what Cam Atkinson could potentially be now, because we spent a lot of time in the first couple weeks of the show kind of talking about best case scenarios, and it was okay, like this is just how we're going to frame it because nothing's gone wrong yet.
Sure.
I wouldn't say something is like the walls aren't caving in because Cam Atkinson can't play in the first couple of preseason games.
Yeah, I'm not overreacting here.
But there is something to, like, one of the highest paid guys on the team right now missed a whole year. We're hoping we're able to move him, get out from under this deal, get some assets for him. We want to see his career continue because he just seems like a pretty damn good guy. We talked the other day about the possibility of, Wade Allison comes into that first preseason game just kind of on a whim, like, oh, yeah, Cam can't play. Get in there, Wade. And I joked, like, that might be Wade Allison's job this year.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Cam can't go tonight. He's going to happen half the time. Like, he played Tuesday, ain't going on Thursday. Is that looking like more of a possibility, maybe?
I don't want to say it's looking like more of a possibility because I don't want to be overreacting to what really is just a few days of missing camp and whatnot. So I don't want to say it's more of a possibility, but I do want to say that him missing a couple days does have that possibility, which always was a possibility. It just has it more like front and center of my mind that, oh yeah, this could be a reality. We're talking about a 34-year-old who missed all of last season, who had a neck surgery where, and you mentioned this before the show when we were talking, like Jack Eichel got the surgery in his mid-20s, and he didn't start looking like Jack Eichel again until the playoffs.
No, we just saw it happen to Farabee. Like, an ascending player in his early 20s took basically a whole season. And like disc replacement versus whatever procedure Cam Atkinson got done.
I think they were relatively similar.
I don't know. Like, I'm not a freaking doctor. I'm barely this.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But, like, it can't be a good sign.
Exactly.
This doesn't fill me with positivity about what Cam Atkinson is going to be.
And I'm not ruling out the possibility that Cam Atkinson, shows up on Saturday, knocks the rust off, and then scores 25, 30 goals this year. It could happen.
On the table.
I'm just saying that given the injury, given the fact that he's already a little banged up, given the fact that he's 34 years old, it strikes me as legitimately very possible that Cam Atkinson could be not limited, not quite a shell of himself, but definitely significantly less effective than he was the last time we saw him. Yeah.
I think the most important question about both Cams who are injured right now, you infamously coined the Travi. For Konecny and Sanheim.
Proud of that one.
Do you have anything for York and Atkinson?
Ooh, I don't know. I mean, it's just, it doesn't lend itself. It doesn't lend itself to something funny.
Yeah, it's not like cacti. Like there's not,
I pulled it from the Winklevi from Social Network and then just rolled with it.
Yes. I just wanted to bring that up. Last note.
Cam, I think honestly it's probably like either Cam squared or Cam times 2. Cam squared I think works better. Sounds better.
I'm picturing in my head like a mirror and it's CAMMA big C again. Like that's how
stylized.
How,
okay,
that's
respect.
how I'm picturing it. But you're the writer here. Last note from practice today. Helge Grans was in the AHL group. He's not in the running to make this team.
Yeah, and the thing is, I actually think he's been pretty decent when I've seen him. Obviously everybody was pretty bad. on Monday. But in the rookie games, he was fine. I think he's been pretty good in practices. I've liked what I've seen in general. But I think he was always the kind of guy where he was a real long shot, and he would have had to be head and shoulders shockingly better than everybody to have a chance. I think today was just a reminder that he hasn't been. He's going to need some AHL time, because it was funny today. The way they split up today's practices, it was the game group, which was basically just a morning skate. Then there was the first non-game group, which was all the NHLers. And then there was the second non-game group, which was about 13 guys that are all ticketed for Phantoms training camp in a week, or in, I think, 4 or 5 days. I think it starts on October 1st. And Grons was part of that. So it just sends a message that, like, yeah, get ready for Lehigh camp, because that's where you're going, bud.
Charlie, right now the time is about 10 of 5, which means in a little more than 2 hours, the time is going to be game time.
10:05?
Right. A little more than 2 hours.
Oh. 7.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
10 of 5.
10. Oh, I think you said 10:05. I'm like,
yeah.
Did we like change time zones here? Yeah. 10 of 5.
I'm
you are
preparing
correct.
for my trip to change time zones.
Okay.
Anyway, this is all a setup for the game time read, because buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. And Game Time is the place for last-minute ticket deals. You know, forget planning months in advance. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event, and you can get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. I was screwing around with the Game Time app today, checking out some of the flash deals. It's like, just take a look at wild card game.
Take a look at playoff
home
tickets.
game 1, wild card 1 for that Philadelphia ball club of ours, and unlock the flash deals. I found Hall of Fame club tickets for the first home game in the $300 range. If anyone remembers last playoffs and the ticket prices, get that Game Time app, because they'll have your back at least. It's only going to go up from here, but you don't have to plan in advance. That's the beauty of Game Time. We didn't find out till last night for sure that we were going to have home field advantage for the wild card, but they have it now, and you can get tickets on Game Time. So check it out. The Game Time guarantee means you'll get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. That's going to be huge. Like I said, these Phillies tickets, the price is going to keep going up. You know you won't get ripped off with Game Time. So snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code PHLY for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code PHLY for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. I cannot wait to go to some more. I really thinking about what the schedule of this show is going to be.
Yeah.
So how do we feel about early?
Yeah, it could be down for that, because these games aren't the wild card games usually like afternoon games.
They can be afternoon. I think because there's a chance they could be playing the Diamondbacks. Maybe they'll want to start a little later to get the West Coast audience.
That's a good point.
Like last year, it was in St. Louis, so it was like it's day baseball in the Midwest. But if it's all the way a Pacific Coast team, but we'll see.
That's good. And also the Phillies.
What am I, the commissioner?
Granted, the Phillies have always been a major market team, but now they're a major market team that won the National League last year. They might want to get them in prime time.
So we're finally going to do it, Charlie, with 8 minutes left in today's show before I go away for 2 days.
Okay.
We're gonna finish the Metro preview.
We'll see if we can.
We are gonna knock out the first of the 4 divisions.
Oh my God!
Because that's just the way things are gonna go. So the last we spoke, we talked about the top 3 teams in the division from last year. We talked about the Canes. We talked about the Devils. We talked about the Rangers, and we got a little bit into Pittsburgh. So let's finish off the Metro preview and start it out with the New York Islanders. 93 points last year in the regular season. They have an over/under at DraftKings at 92.5. The thing that stuck out to me the most when I was doing some research on the Islanders, if you asked me how many full seasons Barzal has in the league, would you believe it when I said this will be his 7th?
So
he's been around forever.
Yeah. So the only reason why I would believe that
is because you're smart.
Well, Thanks, Bill. No, it's because
I can count.
I associate Matt Barzal with Ivan Provorov because it was the same draft, and like those were the two guys with the 7th overall pick that I was highest on. And I remember it being like, I'd be happy with either of them, but you put a gun to my head, I'd rather have Barzal. I think he's more dynamic, and the way things played out, like, man, I wish they had taken Barzal. But yeah, I believe it just because, like, I remember how long Provorov's been around because it was the same draft. That said, like, yeah, he's had a career, and it's funny just that, like, he's still the guy in the Isles, or on the island, where, like, he's their one dynamic guy, and then they have a bunch of Lou dudes.
A bunch of Lou dudes is hilarious. And that's, I guess, the most surprising thing about the Islanders, why they keep... Like, they have maybe the best goalie in the league. They have a very deep team. They have that great fourth line. Eventually, time will catch up to them, but hasn't yet. Their most dynamic player, their one standout star, career high is 22 goals.
Yeah, he's always more of a playmaker.
He's a setup guy.
But you'd expect more from his best season, I agree.
The way he tortures the Flyers.
Yeah,
and when
if he played the Flyers every night, he'd have 80.
Yeah, it's just the way he tortures the Flyers, and just watching him in a vacuum, a dude who can handle the puck like that.
Yeah.
Giroux was never a huge goal scorer. I think he scored like 28 like 4 years in a row or something. I would expect his career high to at least be approaching 30 and not low 20s. And that was a surprise to me.
It's a fair point.
But, like, is this team actually good?
So it's funny. So I did a Metro preview with our friends from PHNX, Craig Morgan and that crew yesterday. And on that preview, I had the Islanders finishing 4th in the division and making the playoffs. I am kind of going to go back on that. And here's why. I had a really good conversation with some of the other beat writers today at practice when we're just standing in the locker room waiting for one of the sessions to end so we can interview guys. And I think it actually might have been Jim Jackson made this point where it was basically that when guys, or it was either Jim Jackson or Jason Martinez with the Flyers radio, basically said that Sorokin, their goalie, had such a good year last year, and not to say he's not a great goalie, because he is, and you can expect that he will remain a great goalie. But when a guy has this amazing Vezina-type quality year, they usually regress at least a bit.
We saw it with Shesterkin just last year.
Yeah, Shesterkin went from being, oh my God, he could be the best goalie ever, to like, oh no, he's just an all-star.
Yeah.
And I think with the Islanders and Sorokin, if he regresses back to just being a really good goalie and not like one of the absolute best goalies of that year, I don't know if this is a playoff team.
Like, Sorokin should have won the Vezina last year.
I mean, his underlying numbers, at least the public sphere, were the best in the league.
Like, Ullmark, nice season. That team was fucking awesome.
Yeah, they were stacked.
And they just didn't get scored on. Like, Sorokin was that team last year.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
He was the reason they went to the playoffs.
And, like, I know that they have Horvat now. Like, they've done some things, and it certainly helps, too, especially in the regular season, that they have a legitimately good backup in Varlamov, where, like, when Sorokin doesn't play, it's not like they're going to lose.
No, that's when Shesterkin doesn't play this year, they're going to throw out Jonathan Quick to get lit up.
How old is he?
104? Like, when, like, the Islanders have a legit almost number one goalie backing up.
He could be a number one on teams.
Varlamov could start for half the teams in the league.
Maybe not that much, but like he could start for quite a few.
10 to 12.
Yeah, quite a few, to be sure. So I think that'll help them, but I'm just not terribly excited by their roster, to be honest with you. We joke about the idea of having the best fourth line in the league. Like, is it anymore? They're all like in their mid-30s at this point.
I thought I wrote it down. Cizikas will turn 33 this season. Clutterbuck will turn 36 in the second month of the season, and Matt Martin is 34.
Yeah, like, I don't know if they're the best fourth line in hockey anymore, to be honest.
It's just like, when your thing is skating around like maniacs and running everyone over, at what point can't you do that anymore?
That's a really good point.
Like, just you lose a little bit of speed and your body hurts a little bit more because all you've been doing is running people over for 10 years.
Yeah.
You're eventually going to wear out. I do love, like, I mean, it's horrible when you play against them because they just beat the shit out of all your best players.
Yeah.
But they're effective.
Yeah,
But
they've been effective for years.
Who knows how long? Like, when the calling card of your team is best fourth line, it doesn't say a ton about your top three lines.
It's an extremely fair point.
So we'll see what happens with them. Pittsburgh, the big disappointment last year, and we've talked about them some already.
Yeah, that was funny.
But this is...
I enjoyed that immensely.
Yeah, truly. The disappointing part is we've looked to this time forever as Flyers fans. Like, eventually they'll be in the division with Pittsburgh and Washington, and then those teams won't be running things, and they're not anymore. But somehow they've been lapped by like teams that shouldn't even exist in Carolina and New Jersey.
Yeah, right.
Regardless, just quick on Pittsburgh. The thing that stood out to me most on them, they had 91 points last year. DraftKings has their over-under at 97.5.
Yeah, I would assume they're really excited about the Carlson acquisition, which I get. I mean, he's an exciting guy, and it's going to be... just purely from a hockey fan perspective, it's going to be fascinating how they feed all those mouths, especially on the power play, because it seems like their plan, at the moment at least, is to have both Karlsson and Letang on the top unit with, I would presume, Crosby and Malkin. Like, that's an insane amount of firepower, but also, like, there's only one puck. How are we going to make this work?
I did hear today, I can't remember what I was listening to, but there's speculation that Letang's like, top unit's yours, buddy. I could deal with less ice time.
Yeah, right.
Like, I've had 2 strokes. I'm good.
That's a good point.
Like, and not to make light of that.
No,
like,
no.
It's just like, no, I don't need to be the number 1 defenseman on this team.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah.
You know? And if you have Erik Karlsson, it's pretty tough to have a better power play point man than him.
Yeah.
He just had 100 points. We'll see about this team. I feel like they are very much, they could... I won't say win this division, but be in the top 3 or completely miss.
Oh yeah, they have a pretty wide range of outcomes, to be sure. I just think there's too much firepower there offensively, and to me, it's like, okay, if I'm pushing the Islanders out of the playoffs, then I'm probably saying, all right, I guess Pittsburgh gets back in. And to be clear, I think that, you know, while I don't think that the decision to trade for Karlsson was the wrong decision, I do think that this Penguins team is now settling in to being more of, we want to stay relevant through the end of Sidney Crosby's career, rather than being like, no, we are going to be a cup contender through the end of Crosby's career. I think if you hooked up Fenway Sports Group to a lie detector, they would acknowledge that this team probably ain't winning a cup, but we just want Sidney Crosby's career to end with him in the playoffs every year. And maybe one year Crosby for a month and a half goes back into 23-year-old Crosby mode and they get to the conference final and it's a big thing.
Finally, speaking of teams that are just looking to hang on through the end of a legendary player's career, Washington, 80 points last year, only 5 points ahead of the Flyers, who absolutely sucked. Over under this year, DraftKings 85.5. Most notable addition, Max Pacioretty's coming off the torn Achilles. And I won't say the entire point of their franchise right now is the OV chase of the goal record, but the entire point of their franchise right now is the OV chase of the goal record. He played 73 games, second fewest he's played in a full season of his career, but he still ended up breaking... What did he break? 50 last year? I think he got to...
Did he get to 50? He got. If he didn't, he came close.
I know he got to 40 because it was the 13th 40-goal season of his career, which set a record. But beyond Ovi missing some time, TJ Oshie only played 58 games. John Carlson only played 40. Backstrom, 39. Tom Wilson played 33. Evgeny Kuznetsov only tried like 4 times. Hated the coach.
Were you following the Kuznetsov thing?
Yeah.
The fact that he did this interview in Russia. Either he didn't think it was going to be translated, or he just didn't give a shit.
He does not care.
But like he basically
threw Lavi under the bus.
Laviolette a new one. But the funnier part was that Alexander Alexiev guy, the defenseman, he basically like in the interview like laughed at him for signing a contract to stay because he's like, this kid thinks he's going to be a top 6 defenseman. Like, did he look at the roster? Yeah. There's no space, and it's like, look, you might be right, but like to say that in an interview about a teammate is wild.
It really is. And listen, were you at the Brizgalov? He did like a sit down sort of thing. At Bourbon and Branch in Philly.
I remember it. I did not go. Didn't you and Kelly went, right?
Me, Kelly, and it was RG Tree. It was Ryan Gilbert. And
RG Tree.
I love it, yeah.
So for inside joke here, Ryan Gilbert is like
7.5 feet tall.
Yeah, he's like actually 6'11", so he's apparently his nickname is RG Tree.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
It was just very funny. Like, Laviolette is a staunch believer in what he does. Like, Kuznetsov in that interview is going on, like, yeah, he's got me playing dump and chase and playing net front on power play. Like, yeah, I didn't have a great season because why would I? It's not what I do. And I've heard a lot of the same things about Laviolette. Like, Briz is telling him, I like to see the puck. I want to see it and stop it. And he goes, well, we block shots here. Like, all right, well, I'm gonna suck, and he did.
And he did.
So
what do you know?
Just like that. So maybe Washington can have a better year if they play a style more conducive to what they do. But really, Ovechkin's at 822 career goals. Gretzky's record is 894. He needs 73 to break the record.
So 2 more years. This is year 1.
Like, at his current pace, it's like halfway through next year.
Yeah. I to me, like.
And he's signed for this year and 2 more, and they'll take him to age 40. He's breaking the record.
Oh, yeah. Unless he gets hurt, he's breaking the record. To me, Washington showed their cards of what they're really all about when they re-signed Tom Wilson. Because, like, and look, we've been critical of Tom Wilson on this show. He's undeniably an effective player.
I would kill for Tom Wilson,
and he's undeniably an effective player right now when he plays. However, you sign him to the contract they signed him to, the length of the contract they signed him to, I believe it was 6 years?
7 years?
7 years. It was 7 years. Like, that contract is going to age terribly. It's hard for me to envision a scenario where in 4 or 5 years, that is not a dramatic albatross keeping potentially the post-Ovechkin Capitals from being anything close to relevant. But clearly the way they're looking at it is, you know what? Having Tom Wilson on this team for the next 2-3 years makes it more likely Alex Ovechkin is going to break the goal record. So we're signing him.
And
why not?
Ovi loves him.
Yeah, Ovi loves him.
Like, but we talked about this with Oshie years ago, and I was all for it. I was like, yeah, but they're going to try to win a cup in that time.
Sure.
So if the end of the contract sucks, it sucks.
And it's not good now.
No. He only played 58. But you signed Tom Wilson to this deal after a year in which he played 33 games.
Yeah.
You're going to get what you get with that.
Exactly. And I have to think they know that. They have to know that, but they have to be looking at it as, because that's the kind of contract you sign when you're like, we're gunning for a cup, so, damn the future, it's all about the present. But, like, the Washington Capitals' present isn't good, aside from the fact that they're trying to get Ovechkin the goal record.
And you know what? They got their one.
Yeah,
you would expect a legendary player like him to maybe have a little bit more of a postseason resume, but the greatest goal scorer of all time is a pretty damn great thing to have in an organization.
And they got their cup, and Ovi spent the whole summer celebrating it, so he's happy.
He's still celebrating.
Still celebrating it.
All right, I had to take the show into a little bit of overtime today, Charlie, because I'm selfish. Sorry we're keeping you here, Bree. But I'm not going to be on for the rest of the week, so we had to just finish up, and we did it.
Thank God.
We don't have
Finally
to talk
got the Metro
Columbus.
done.
We don't have to talk
We
Columbus.
did talk Columbus, though.
Because
we did.
Mike Babcock, that was like half of the first week of the show.
We talked about Columbus.
Yeah, we've talked plenty about Columbus.
Yeah.
So that is the Metropolitan preview, and that, Charlie, is all the time we have for you on PHLY Flyers today. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for hanging out. If you haven't already, you got to hit that subscribe button, whether it's podcast app or on YouTube. You follow us, damn it. Do it. We need you. We need you badly. Do it. And you're going to be rewarded with content. It's free. But if you want to go above and beyond, you go to AllPHLY, become a diehard member so you never miss anything, whether it's paywall content, discounts on events, shirt, merchandise, all sorts of stuff. You can get it at allphly.com. That'll do it for me. My name is Bill Matz for Charlie O'Connor. Have a great week, Philly.
We all silly like the mayor.